Um, Maseches Bava Metzia Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. We're live. We're in the heart of the matter. So good to see everyone here today. So we are in Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. We are before the white lines, and we said Metzia Barefes Einoi Chayev. That's where we are. Yeah. In other words, we are the narrowest lines. We are 4 lines before the last narrowest line. Metzia Barefes Einoi Chayev. The line starts with the word Metzia. You can see my cursor if you watch us online. In other words, it said in the Mishnah that if one found a cow inside the refes, what's a refes? A cow shed, then he does not have to return the cow to its owner. And the question was, what do you mean you found it in a cow shed? That's its home. You know, I find you in your house, I don't have to return you to your wife. Of course, you're home, right? She knows who you are, she knows where you live. So then answer the Gemara. What did the Gemara answer? We're not talking here about a cow shed that's absolutely 100% safe, right, and secure. It's a kind of cow shed which the animal may possibly run away from because the door, according to Rashi, is closed but not locked. So the animal may or may not run. It's an in-between situation, and the Mishnah has to tell me that it's not called lost, and you have to really, you don't have to return it. Take it slowly.
He knows how to open the door.
Yeah, some animals are smart. They can. Yeah. Omar Bitzchok. Oh, Bitzchok. Now the question is, yeah. What? Omar Bitzchok. Okay. Now the question is, where is that refes located? Is it near the person's house or not? Vehu, says Rabbi Yitzchak, shomedes toich letchum. That we say that if the animal is inside the cowshed, then what? And the cowshed is so guarded, you don't have to inform the bailim, just keep driving by. That is only true if it's inside the tchum, not outside the tchum. What is the tchum? Tchum, 2,000 ames. If it's 2,000 ames, yeah, about 2 kilometers or so from where? From the where the owner lives, or the next, moshav, then you don't have to return, you don't have to do anything because it's close to home. Michlal, that is to say, the Bershus Arabim, what did the second statement of the Mishnah said? If you want to go up with your eyes, look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that if it was Bershus Arabim Chayev, if the animal is just walking down the street alone, then, it's a stray cow, then you do have to return it to the owner. That is to say, even if it's inside the tchum, right? In other words, if it's inside the tchum, although it's inside the tchum, it's inside the tchum, and it's also in a cowshed. These are 2 positives, 2 good reasons. Remember the story with the cow in the vineyard? It's a similar story here, but much easier. If you have 2 strikes for the animal security, it's inside the tchum, and it's also inside a closed cowshed, then we say beseder, then it's not an aveda. Mashma, that if it's baderech, if it's just, on its way, not in any enclosed place, then even though it's close to home, it's inside the tchum, then you do have to return it. 1 minute, excuse me, before we continue. What would be if it's outside the tchum? According to what we learned so far, let's say it's outside the tchum, it's 2,000 ames away from from town, more like then it's lost, even if it's in a cowshed, in a so-so cowshed. Very good, because it's so far away, so the bailim is not in control, and the cowshed is not exactly exciting, not what Brinks would use. Let's put it this way. That's one way to understand it. Ika de matnila aseifa. Some people, what you call, they pin the statement of Rav Yitzchak and they change it. They connect his statement, and he's an Amoira. They pin his line like a cut and paste thing. They connect it to the second case. What do you mean? What did the Seifa say? The second case, if the animal is just walking down the street, that doesn't look like it belongs anywhere, to anybody, and I mean it does belong to someone, but it's walking out of the cowshed, then you have to return it. On that, we pin a statement of Rabbi Yitzchak, and we say, whoa, just the opposite. Rabbi Yitzchak said double negative, similar. If it is on the road, mamish open road, and outside the tchum, that's bad news. It's like walking in the field or shus or abim somewhere, and it's also 2,000 amas away from any human being's moshav. Then it's an aveda. Only 2 strikes against it, it's an aveda. You have to return. Michlal, that is to say, the berefes, if you have a cow shed outside the tchum, nami eno chayev bo, then you don't have to return it. If the cow shed is more or less safe, but that cow shed is outside the tchum, in Hebrew we say rachok me'ayin, rachok me'alev. Yeah, what you don't see, you don't connect to. In other words, it's too far, and then we always have to return it. Mashenkin, if it's inside the tchum, it's never considered as lost, even on the road. Second wide line, but not widest. Second average line, middle of the road line. Yeah, the Americans are always 1 second before you. Unfair. It started with the Boston Tea Party until today. No respect for the Queen, and that's it. I just want to point out what we just did now is, we know there is a statement of Rabbi Yitzchak. What does the Gemara do? The Gemara is editing the Mishnah over here. The Mishnah is not a finished product, as many people think. Yeah. So then I'm sure you have a lot to say about that. But Lamaisa, the Gemara is now trying to figure out. We know there's a Mishnah, nice. We know there's a statement made by Rabbi Yitzchak about somewhere in the Mishnah. If we pin that statement of the Amora to the beginning of the Mishnah, one thing will happen. If we pin it to, which is the second version of Rabbi Yitzchak, if we pin a statement to the second part of the Mishnah, there's going to be a whole different understanding. That's a structure here. That's all. Now you can re-record, replay what I said in the past few minutes. You'll understand it better. Yes, Ellen. Yeah. Okay. The basic verse, second wide but not widest line. So what did we say? If the person is a kohen, and the kohen, I think, is not allowed to go to basic verse. If a kohen goes into a Jewish cemetery, then he's over 2 averos, right? What? Unless he's dead. As long as the kohen is alive, and enters basic verse walking in his 2 feet, very good. So then, if he goes into basic verse, he's over in an aseh, and the loita aseh, there's also prohibition, you do not make yourself tummy. So if you have an aveda in basic verse and you're a kohen, you walk down the street in Shmolonovi there, the basic verse is right next to you. It's a very relatively open to the public basic verse where Bava is buried and my grandmother and the yeah. So then you walk by there, there's a gate, and you see an Aveda. You see Shmerli uncle's tricycle over there, and you know they lost it, and your name is Cohen. Can you just go in there, take it, and give it back to him? No, you're not allowed to. Unless... the father. Now we're going to talk about the father. Tono bonon. Minayin she'im omar lo oviv hitome. How do you know that if the father of the Kohen tells the Kohen, be nitma, I'm telling you, I want you to be nitma and what? Go into the cemetery in order to return the tricycle to Chamyankel. Oy shamar loy al tachzir. Let's say the father told his son, don't return the Aveda. Now, we're not talking here that he told him, don't return the Aveda because, out of spite to the other person. Huh? You return the Aveda of that guy who never gave me an aliyah? That guy who doesn't smile to me in the street, don't return his Aveda. That, my friends, there's a whole tshuva about it. I don't remember which tshuva. I saw the tshuva inside 2 or 3 years ago. If your father tells you don't talk to someone, you're not supposed to respect your father bichlal. That's not even a question. Yeah? Which means, let's continue. I'm jumping the gun. I'm going to define, I'm jumping the gun myself. We're talking over here, and soon I'll explain myself. The father says, don't return the Aveda, nothing to do with basic verse. You're Israel, you're walking down Merkaz Mischari, you see a lost wallet or something, and the father says, don't worry, don't bother yourself now with this wallet. I want to sit with you now in Mishulashim and make me coffee and buy me coffee and coffees. Do this now, and don't bring back the Aveda. I want you to deal with me now. Oh, here we have a moral, moral dilemma. Why? On one hand, I want to return the wallet now. Thieves are going to come soon. On the other hand, we can imagine that in the cartoon, right? On the other hand, the father wants his cup of coffee now. Now, why am I saying cup of coffee? Because to make a cup of coffee to the father is a very clear, defined kibud. As my father always used to tell us, kibud and moira, the Gemara in Kiddushin around Daf Lamed, gives very clear parameters for kibud and tomorrow. Kibud is to serve him. You give him the blanket, give him the jacket, serve him physically, wash him, give him food, give him drinks. That's kibud. Moira is have fear, have awe towards your father. Yeah, in other words, you have to stand up when he comes, don't sit in his chair. But if your father tells you, and this is a psak from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, your father tells you, I want you to shave your beard, or I want you to grow your beard, and the son does the other way. The son is meikradin, not mechuyev to listen to his father, as long as it's not done in an insolent way. And this is not shiur halacha. I'm just being general. You can ask your own rabbi. But I'm telling you, the kibud of doesn't mean your father stamp commands you to wear a green jacket or jump in the lake or do stuff. Even before we come to mitzvahs, to colliding with other mitzvahs. So that's why the Rishonim here explained that there's a real dilemma. I can either give back the Aveda, but my father now wants me to make him coffee. So what do I do now? So Shaloi Yishmaloi. Wow. Don't listen to your father and return the Aveda. You have to return the Aveda. Why do you know you return the Aveda? How do you know the returning the Aveda trumps what? The father's kibud? Sheneemar, it says, Ish imay vaviv tirou, you should fear your mother and your father, and you should guard the Sabbath, keep Shabbos. And Hashem Elokeichem. We have to add the word Elokeichem. Yeah, why does it say Hashem Elokeichem? I know Hashem is my God, Baruch Hashem. It's mentioned many times in the Torah. Why is it mentioned in the context of Kibud Avaim, Yira, and Shabbos, and then Hashem is our God? Well, what's going on here? What's the formula? It explains the Brisa. Kulchem chayovin b'chvoidi. Both you and your father are mechuyev b'chvoidi, which means the reason why I have to be mechabed my father is because why? Because Hashem said so, and my father is also mechuyev in Hashem's kavod. So in the hierarchy, the top is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then my father, then me. And therefore, if Hashem tells me return the Aveda, and my father says cup of coffee, I'll tell my father, I'm sorry, Dad, I'll make your coffee, in 20 minutes time. I first deal with Aveda. Because your father is also mechuyev in Hashavas Aveda. He's also under Hashem's ruling. All the more so if your father tells you, buy me chazi or buy me a goish, problematic newspaper. Or your father tells you break Shabbos because of the Kibbud Avim. You know how many Baalei Teshuva in Israel they're told, because of Kibbud Avim, you have to go with us to the beach on Shabbos with the car. Kibbud Avim. Of course, well, you think otherwise? Comes the Torah and says no. Says because the father who happens not to be frum is also mechuyev in Hashem's kavod, you don't go to the beach with him on Shabbos and you go elsewhere, you go to shul. Okay, that's the source. You see, Taima, the only reason why in that moral dilemma the other mitzvah wins and trumps over the kibud avim. There's a special pasuk as for shosei tishmoiru. Halav hachi. If not for that. If not for this extra pasuk in the Torah, if not for this pasuk in the Torah, Havamina, I would have said Tzai Saleh. It sounds like if not for that extra pasuk in the Torah, I would have listened to my father and not to, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, I would make him the coffee, or I would enter Beis HaKvaros. That's a lav already. I would go into Beis HaKvaros, right? And yes, even though I'm a Kohen, because my father wants me to return the Aveda, because yes, I'm kind of interested in that. Yeah. Really? Would I imagine that really I have to break the Isser of what? A Shavas Aveda has how many Isurim? At least one Aseh and one Lot Aseh. Why is that? Even without the Pasuk, I would have known that I have to return the Aveda and not make a coffee to my father right now. Why? Aseh. Same formula we had before. The mitzvah of Kibbud Avim is very important, but with all due respect, when it comes to hard numbers, it's only one mitzvah. Yira is a different mitzvah. The one mitzvah of Kibbud Avim, that's mitzvah saseh. Yeah, we're in the middle of the middle lines. The high mashenken shavas aveda lo taaseh ve'aseh. Why? Lo taaseh of shavas aveda lo tuchal yis'alem. You're not allowed to ignore. That's negative. Ve'aseh hashev teshivim. So anyway, but the rules of game, even without the pasuk, the one aseh when it comes to the boxing ring of mitzvahs, yeah, one aseh, you can't stand his chance against the lot aseh ve'aseh of a Shavas Aveda. You want to tell me about Tumas Kohanim? I prepared. When it comes to Tumas Kohanim, the same thing. Versus what? Again, So anyhow kibud av is just one to say, can't stand a chance. So why do we need the pasuk to help the other mitzvahs? So they're strong enough without. Answers the Gemara, Itzrich. Yes, we do need that extra pasuk. Why? I would have thought, even after knowing the klal of 1 against 2, since kibud ava aim is compared, is on par with Hashem's own covered. Wow. In other words, yes, you have to sort of view your parents not mamash like Hashem, but very, very high regard, in the same level like in Mechabed Hashem. How do you know? Shenemar, and we have now Gzer Shava. Kan, it says here in the 10 Commandments, Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, honor thy father and thy mother, right? You know that. V'nemar lehalon, and it says in a different place, Kabed es Hashem mehoinecha. Oops, the same word kabed refers to Ava'im and refers to Hashem. Oh, okay. So maybe Hilkach Havamina Letzayasle. I would have thought I have to listen to my father. Why? Because maybe to honor my father and my mother is not just one assay, it's one mega assay. It's a mega assay. It's mamish like listening to Hashem himself. Yeah. So maybe my father vis-a-vis halacha may not be even from. I don't know, but when I said the father halachically mitzad listening to him, I have to listen to him as much as I listen to Hashem, and that trumps all other mitzvahs. So maybe yes, maybe kibud av is stronger than the assay of kedoshim tiyov v'koyin, or the assay of return the aveda. Yes, there was a havamina. Hamash malan delo lishmalei. For that, we need an extra pasuk to outsmart that line of thinking. Yeah, and say no. As much as we do believe kibud avim is very important, when it comes to hard cash, to one mitzvah against the other, at the end of the day, we don't listen to the father if he tells you to do an avera or not fulfill a mitzvah. There's a very nice lomdus over here, which I may or may not share with you. We have some iyun afterwards in the Amud, but not right now. Yappy, 2 questions and then we continue. Okay. Wide line, the first wide line at the end. Now, from now till the end of the shiur, we're going to discuss more in detail the mitzvah of prika v'te'ina, prika of unloading the burden from your friend's animal or your enemy's animal, or te'ina to help him load the load. And we're going to discuss extensively the mitzvah of sar ba'alei chaim, of not being cruel to animals and preventing suffering from living beings, from animals. Mitzvah min haTorah lifroik, aval loy litoin. So the Mishnah said, an interesting statement. And the Kama says there's a mitzvah min haTorah to unload, but there's no mitzvah to load the animal. Says the Gemara, really? My aval loy liton. Exactly what do you mean when you say there is no mitzvah to load the animal? Okay. Aval loy liton klal. If you want to tell me that there's just no mitzvah to load the animal, to help him pick up the burden, because as we're going to see later, it's not so clear what the psukim are saying. If so, mashna prika d'chtiv azov ta'azov imoy. But you believe prika does exist in the Torah, right? So when it says in the mitzvah of prika, help him, azov, help him unload because the animal's dying, almost te'ina nami, te'ima also te'ina. When it comes to loading, it says achsiv hakim takin imoy. That's quite clear. You should be making what's hakim to lift, to pick up. So you see, you do pick up the burden. It's quite mefurish both ways. In other words, if you somehow don't believe in either mitzvah, you think in some esoteric idea, some fable, fine. So none of the mitzvahs. And if you believe that the mitzvahs are lemaisa, so both. Why do you pick one over the other? Why is one a mitzvah, one is not a mitzvah? What's going on here? Ella must be, you misunderstood the Mishnah. Mitzvah min haTorah lifrok bechinam. Loliton bechinam ela besachar. Again, lifrok bechinam, to unload and undo the burden, and just the animal is about to collapse and this, you quickly take off everything, and that you should do for free. Loliton bechinam ela besachar. Te'ina, we cannot force the person to be to'en, to help him pick up bechinam, only besachar, only with sachar. In other words, the owner of the donkey is automatically charged, can be charged by who? By the person who helps him. And I'm only mechuyev to do it for him, to help him, if he's going to pay me money. Machlokes Rishonim, which I saw this morning. This morning I had another look at the Gemara and I saw some interesting things. which bothered me. And the Nimukei Yosef says, and I'm not going down that lane so much, just for general knowledge, the Nimukei Yosef says, when you say sachar, we said previously, you're not supposed to take mitzvahs, for sachar for mitzvahs. The Nimukei Yosef is concerned about that. And he says, some people say sachar means, yes, you can take sachar, you can take money for doing the mitzvah. The other one says, no. If you're a person and you don't have a job, unemployed, not in koilel, you don't get money anyway, you won the lottery, I hope you just stroll around the street and you help the guy to do te'ina, then you're not allowed to ask for any money, according to that one opinion. When we say sachar means what? Remember the guy who's a secretary? Makes 50 shekels? Yeah? The guy with the zuz? That's what it means. Sachar means some kind of compensation for the loss of work you have in your 50 shekels an hour, or 20 shekels an hour, or 500 shekels an hour. And of course, we're not going again to the same explanation, the whole amount, half the amount, v'chule. Now, by the way, there's one svar which I said, which I afterwards did not see in the Rishonim. I'm sort of correcting a mistake now. I'm not sure it's 100% mistake, but I did not see what I said anywhere, so I just will be honest with you. I told you previously, what did I tell you? The reason why you have to do te'ina with sachar to pick up the load, for that you can ask for money, while if it's prika, if it's to unload, you don't ask for money. I assumed that is because the te'ina is harder work. I have a very vague memory that somebody says it, but I did not see it this time around. What I did see was the other reason, the clear reason is that, as we're going to see soon, and we saw before, prika is a much more important mitzvah. What I mean? Because when the animal is really, really sagging under the burden, then two things are going to happen. It's going to die, and it's going to die. Meaning the person who's going to lose the chamor is worth like a Mazda 2023, and also the chamor is suffering. Tsar b'alechaim. When the chamor just everything already fell apart, and all you want to do is load the chamor, there's no monetary loss, the pashtus. So at this point, we think there's no monetary loss. Yeah, he's just helping him chesed. He shouldn't be there all on his own. Help him out. Yeah, so that's why we say according to Tanakama, and according to Tanakama, that's halacha. Again, Tanakama says that not if you want, since you have to lifrok, unload, and that's extremely important. There, the Torah says don't take money for that because that's really your moral obligation. You have to be porek, the poor animal, tzar b'alechaim, the man is losing everything, and therefore be porek and don't start talking to him about money. Yeah, mashenken beteina, when the teina, since teina is less important for the other side, I say, listen, the Torah does command me to do that. The Torah realizes that how necessary am I? So if you want to pay me, I'll help you. If he says, no, don't help me because I don't have money, I won't help him. Yeah, I'm only mechuyev to help him if I know it's going to give me money. Rabbi Shimon Omer now continues the Mishnah we continue to quote the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Af litoin bechinam. Says Rabbi Shimon, litoin is also for free. Rabbi Shimon says, and we're going to see why later. Rabbi Shimon says both mitzvahs, brika and te'ina, those sister mitzvahs, both of them you have to do for free. Now we're going to explain everything. Tnina leho. We have learned what we just said. Bekitzer is going to be an entire brisa book. Brika bechinam te'ina b'sachar. That's Tanakama. To unload, which is super important, that's more important than any money in the world. You have to do it for free. Te'ina b'sachar. To load, you have to do, but then you're limited. You can ask for to be remunerated. Rabbi Shimon Omer zuvazu bechinam. Rabbi Shimon say both are bechinam. I gave you reasons, which I saw in the Meforshim, but now the Gemara is going to give you not the reason, but the source. The source. My tamayu, the Rabbanon. What's the reason of Rabbanon? Which is more like what's the source? How do you read the psukim according to Rabbanon? If you would think to say like Reb Shimon that both of them are for free, and Ta'ina and Prika are at the end of the day equally important because both of them, and therefore both of them should be done for free. If so, Lichta v'chmona Ta'ina. The Torah should write only Ta'ina. Yeah, the Torah should tell me, listen, buddy, you have to help him load the burden. V'lo by Prika, and the Torah could have omitted the entire parsha of Prika. Wow. The Torah would not have to tell me Prika at all. I would have figured out myself. Why? V'ana I would, with my own intelligence, me, the reader of the Torah, I would have known myself that you have to do prika. Why? Umat te'ina delays batzar balechaim. If te'ina that has no tzar balechaim in it, v'lekaches on kis, as I just told you, te'ina has two ideas, two concepts don't exist. I'm just being nice. Sesame Street. Let's help my friend. The animal's not suffering, and he's not losing any money, and yet the Torah commands me to do it, forces me to do it. Chayev, I have to do it. Prika the is batzar balechaim veches on kis. Prika that has the concept of tzar balechaim. The animal is really suffering. Veches on kis. The guy's about to lose his donkey. Lo kol shekain. Of course, I have to do the prika. So really, the word prika is not the word. The concept of prika. Why is it written in the Torah? I would have known it myself. There's a very, very, very big question here, but I'm leaving it to the side. So why did the Torah write that, so to speak, redundant parsha? Why did the Torah go into the details and tell me that you have to do prika? To tell you, who's more important? Prika or teina? Prika, more. Yes, it's more than teina. It's mentioned because it's at a higher level. Halacha. Bam, bam, bam. In other words, if Prika was the same as Teina, it doesn't have to be mentioned. Prika is mentioned because it's more important and you know it. Therefore, Prika is one level above. Post meant one level above for free. Teina, which is less important, you can demand, listen, I'm helping you, buddy, but you should know, I make 50 shekels in the office and it's going to take 2 hours. Please have your 100 shekels ready and let's just agree on that to begin with. And you can say that if he doesn't do it, then I'll still have to do it, but I'll take him to Beis Din afterwards. Maisa. But it has to be a sachar. Prika is so super duper important, the prika, and therefore I have to do it even for free. That's what the Torah mentioned it. To give it more importance and force you more, make your obligation stronger and do it even for free. There's a big question here. I'm leaving you with a question which in Amud base may be sorted out. If you realize it's like one of the Chonim says, not here, it's like a cat, it's like a chicken and egg question. It's like a cat running around its tail. What did we just say? We assume before we saw the mitzvah of what? Let's assume, says the Torah, that only te'ina would be mentioned, right? Yeah, to load the animal. There's no loss for the animal, no loss, no pain, no nothing. Still, be nice. You know, the man is standing there, so taking 2 hours, help him, and it's going to take 1 hour, and you do that. If the Torah would have said that, I wouldn't have to know what? The Torah wouldn't have to write the mitzvah of prika, because I know already that you have to do prika because of tzar ba'alechaim. How do you know about tzar ba'alechaim? According to Rashi in Shabbos, in 2 places, Rashi says that the source of tzar ba'alechaim is from mitzvah of prika. So how do you know about tzar ba'alechaim if prika is not mentioned? Big question. Get it? How do you know about tzar ba'alechaim? If that pasuk that is the source of tzar ba'alechaim wouldn't be written, how do you know tzar ba'alechaim? Because my Ganena told me at the age of 3, don't hurt the ants, and don't catch the lizard. Tzar ba'alechaim, is she the source? My Ganena? What? You're saying a big thing here. You're raising a thing. It's a big lavdafka. The Gemara would say like you later, but okay. But Lamasa, we do mention tzar ba'alechaim here. Okay. After we know it, we mention it. Shomea. Okay. We'll continue. I hear you. Okay, because we're online, I'm not going to say what I'm going to tell you. There are no universal values, b'chlal, chas, v'sholem. Only the values that the Torah tells me. There's nothing generally humanistic or no. We have to have a source. So I'm continuing on purpose. One second. Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon argued on that. What does Rabbi Shimon say? Both are equal, not animals and human beings. Both are equals, prika and teina. Both of them are bechinam. Why? My time. How does Rabbi Shimon explain how would he respond to what we just proved? And says the Gemara, Mishum de lo misai mikroi, as we mentioned before and explained to you, when you read the psukim in the Torah, it's not exactly clear that the pasuk that talks about the animal falling, is mashma. I would say that one pasuk talks about the animal that roivet tachas masoi, it's sagging, crouching under the burden. And the other one, it says it's falling under its burden. Says Rabbi Shimon, well, they both say the same. Here is falling, here is crouching. Rabbi Shimon understands it both, the animal is all down, yeah. And what do I have to do? I have to download. I have to unload. I have to unload. Yeah, that's what I would have said. In other words, it's not so simple. The one pasuk is talking about loading, and the other one is about unloading. It's not so clear. And as we know many times, if the Torah says the same thing twice, no. Therefore, had the Torah only tell me one pasuk, yeah, I would have automatically connected it to what? To what? Let's say out of the two X's in the formula, the Torah would have written one. Me, animal lover. I'm the devil's advocate. Me, of course, it's a pasuk that's preventing cruelty to animals, and not the other one. So I would have stayed with only one piece of knowledge about Prika. I would have known Teina, and there was one pasuk. Comes the turn, ends me two psukim, another pasuk, which again is not so clear who's talking about who. Once we have two psukim, one is redundant, as we always know. Something else. In the Torah, whenever there's like an overspill of psukim and two psukim saying the same, we use one pasuk for a bigger chiddush. Now that we have two psukim, shkoyach, thank you very much, says Reb Shimon. Now I'm smart enough to know that there's prika and there's teina bichlal in the world. In other words, according to Shimon, I would have known the basics. You're talking about free or money? What are you talking about? I wouldn't have known bichlal about these mitzvahs, right? Had there been only one mitzvah, I wouldn't have learned kol shekain to prika. I would have said this pasuk is prika. And I wouldn't have known about Teina, says Reb Shimon. Mimela, I need the two psukim for basic knowledge. I don't have the luxury of the extra pasuk being there to tell me about money or for free. So at the end of the day, yes, both are the same. Yeah, it's not extra enough to tell me you have to do it for free. It's extra to tell me that there's a mitzvah called Teina. No questions now. Yeah, I'll repeat. According to Tanakama, they know before, when I read the pasuk like a 3 years old, in a superficial way, according to Tanakama, there's a pasuk called Te'ina, a pasuk called Prika. Why does it have to tell me that? Why does it have to tell me Prika? Don't you know about Tzar Ba'alechaim? Meganene taught me, and also Yiton Mishpacha. I know I'm being cynical with my question, but I know about Tzar Ba'alechaim, and therefore, must be the extra pasuk about Prika is telling me even for free. I'm happy. Says Reb Shimon, guys, no. If we only had only one pasuk with the unclear text of the Torah, Prika Teina, one pasuk would have told me what? Automatically, only Prika, because I also believe in Tzar Ba'alechaim. I would have just not known about Teina at all. Not Chinam, I would just not know about it whatsoever. Comes a turn, ends me another blurry pasuk, and between two blurry pasukim, I know, must be one of them is Teina, one of them is Prika. Now I need the two, otherwise I wouldn't know bichlal about it. But I don't have the luxury to say it's an extra pasuk for making it for free. It's an extra pasuk to tell me bichlal there's a mitzvah called Teina. That's Reb Shimon. Right. Rabbanon. Thank you for your patience. Frag the Gemara, Rabbanon, they say, Mapitom, Rabbanon, I retort back to Reb Shimon. What are you talking about? Am I cry? Why saying that the psukim are unclear? They're very clear. Over here it says is sagging under the burden, which means the burden is on it, and it's rovet, crouching, sagging, misken, under the masa. It's about to break, it's about to die. SOS, ambulance, you have to be porek. That's prika. Awesome. When it comes to te'ina, ksiv noiflin baderech, it says the animal and the parcels, the packages, they fall in the way. What does that mean? The ramu inu veteunayu be'urcha. Both animal, listen carefully, and the bundles and the cargo, they both fell on the floor. Not the animal en masse, one body fell on the floor, but the animal fell and all the parcels, all the packages, all the stuff, all the suitcases, all fell all over, and now I have to pick them up. No, that's called te'ina. So Rabbanan believe that's prika clearly, and that's te'ina clearly. So it's not true, your basic premise that really we have some kind of unclarity here. Yeah, mashma, that's what it means. Satan Akama. Reb Shimon, what does Shimon answer? Ping pong. I call those ping pong Gemara, Slavdil. Neuflin baderech, no. I don't, that's not the picture I have in my mind. Neuflin baderech, inhu, they, the animals, that yunayu alayhu mashma. The way I understand the pasuk, the way I envision it in my mind, says Rabbi Shimon, is it's a donkey falling with the suitcase with the cargo, with a little boat, whatever, on the chamor, still connected, still tied, still bundled, and all found, which means it's also a matter of prika. So both psukim can be explained as prika. So how do you know te'ina? Because prika is mentioned twice. Whenever we have an inflation and an overflow of A and again A, then A becomes B. That's always a rule in the Torah and Chazal many times. As Rab Shimon Shkoyach, the psukim to me may be reading as what? Te'ina and te'ina. How do you know about prika? Oh, there's another stam. The fact it repeats itself means prika is also in the story. But it doesn't tell me anything about free or money. And Mimela, it's nothing extra. And I believe that mitzvahs should be done for free, which is always the basic idea. Mitzvahs should not be taken yet. Chachamim say no. Here we have a chiddush that one is for money, one is for free. Because otherwise the psukim are redundant. Because I do know what they mean in the Pashup Shot. Mashma. Yeah, before we go to a certain country in Northeast Asia, you can still talk. I'm listening. Yeah. And now we're going to focus on Tzar Ba'alei Chaim. Amar Rove, says Rove, Midivrei Shneim Nilmad, from both the Nekama and Rabbi Shimon, from both of them we learn, Tzar Ba'alei Chaim Deoraisa, boom, 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 boom. Says Rove, there's a discussion in Masechet Shabbos, yeah, one in Kuf Kaf Ches, one later, is Tzar Ba'alei Chaim, which we believe does exist in the Torah, is it the Oraisa or the Rabbanon? And then of Kamin and Shabbos said, what would be if you have an animal suffering, and in order to avoid the suffering, you can move mukta. Let's say there's a heavy item, an animal that's bothering it, but it's mukta. That's the story there. Is mukta, which is the Rabbanon, pushed by Tzar Ba'alei Chaim or not? So then, or does mukta push Ba'alei Chaim? Now, why should Tzar Ba'alei Chaim be the Oraisa? According to Rashi, and we asked on Rashi a question, Rashi says in Shabbos the source is from our psukim of Prika and Te'ina. However, there is a very big selection of other sources. I made a collection here really with the help of my Chavarusa, and that is the psukim. Here we are. Sources for Isser Tzar Ba'alei Chaim. I just wrote it yesterday and today. One, L'sachsam shor b'dishoy. I don't remember who says what. Do not muzzle the ox when it's doing the threshing. The animal wants to eat while it's working in the threshold, so don't stop it. Some Rishonim say, don't. The chinuch says, don't plow with the donkey and the bull together. Yeah, one is slower, one is quicker. They're not managing together. It's like having a bad business partner, a bad chavrusa. It's very hard. Yeah, to send away the mother. We think it's a cruel thing. It's not cruel. Yeah, in other words, we make sure she's not there when you take her children. So she shouldn't see in front of her eyes that you take the kindalach. Unbelievable. Rambam in Mor Nevochim says the techocha of the malach. Are you familiar with the biblical story of Balaam? Yeah, anybody heard about him? Yeah. So Balaam was riding his donkey, his female donkey, and he smote it 3 times. And then the angel came and rebuked him for smiting the animal. Why is he rebuking him? Must be the Tzar Ba'alei Chaim. I'll say something about it later. And Rashi Azov Tazov Imoy. And Ramosha Sofer, I saw today, fresh this morning, Ramosha Sofer, I think it's a Ksav Sofer, no, it's a son of the Sofer, I think, no. Ramosha Sofer says, V'rachma v'kol masov, it's a verse in Psalms, which Jewish people say 3 times a day. Yeah, V'rachma v'kol masov, Hashem's mercies over all his deeds. Another one, maybe Ramban, I'm not sure, says, Alachal Moshe Misinai. It's just something in the oral Torah with no clear makor. Okay, so we have a galore of sources. Nevertheless, by the way, this I have to say offline. I have to say something offline. Yeah. So we have all these sources that we mentioned. And now, as I said, when I was offline, there's a question if it applies to Goyim or not, because Bilam was a Goy. Fine. Now, says Rova, from our sugya, it sounds like both Chacham and Reb Shimon, they sound as if they're saying that Tzar Ba'alei Chaim, the prohibition of causing pain to animals, is the Oraisa. Why do you see it's the Oraisa? Well, obviously, because let's ignore Rashi now. Lefi all other opinions, we don't learn Tzar Ba'alei Chaim from here. Again, if I would have only read the pasuk, which one of Te'ina, to load the animal, it's a mitzvah in the Torah. Help your friend. Why do you have to do Te'ina? Be nice to your friend. Be a mensch. Do Te'ina. Nice. And I already know from about 7 different sources, not from here. I already know from where, from another Nakuda in the Torah, let's say from Shalach to Shalach Yisrael, I know that there's a Tzar Ba'al Chaim in the Torah. Now, I don't know if it's the Oraisa or the Rabbanon, because maybe those psukim we mentioned, maybe it's only in a smachta. We know of the concept of Tzar Ba'al Chaim, but sometimes there are psukim mentioned in the Torah, but they're not really from the Torah. In other words, the pasuk is in the Torah, but it's really mitzvah the Rabbanon that's like hanging itself on the Oraisa. So I know of the concept of Tzar Ba'al Chaim. I know that from sources, not from my kindergarten teacher, not from newspaper, not from the RCCSPA, whatever. I know it from other places, but the question is, what's the level? Oh, you see that Chachamim say that the Torah itself could have omitted the pasuk of Prika, right? And I would have known. Who's I? The Torah expects me to know, right? The mitzvah of Prika by myself, because the Torah is the one who commanded me in another place. That there's mitzvah Tzar Ba'al Chaim. That's a structure. That's what we want to say. Rashi will deal with later. What about Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Shimon is a renegade. He did not agree to all that, right? He says both psukim have to be mentioned. Says the Gemara something super intelligent here. Rabbi Shimon did not object to Tanakama's Kal V'chomer conceptually. He just said, listen, I'm behind you. I don't know which pasuk is talking about what, because I think both psukim may be talking about Te'ina. Aval Mesai Mikroi, if in theory, according to Rabbi Shimon, he would know that this is Prik and this is Te'ina, Darshinan Kal V'chomer, right? In other words, Rabbi Shimon, when he retorts and answers Tanakama, he doesn't say, Yo Kal V'chomer Shtusim, because I don't think Tzar Ba'al Chaim is such a big thing. He could have said that. He doesn't. He comes from a different kind of argument. So you see that he does agree to the point of Kal V'chomer, that we know that if Prika is there, if Te'ina is there, Kol Sheken Prika, because of Tzar Ba'al Chaim, Mishumai must be La Mishum Tzar Ba'al Chaim, Del Shinan must be the vorti is Tzar Ba'al Chaim. So you see Tzar Ba'al Chaim, yeah, between the lines, is really from the Torah. I have an answer for Rashi 10:25. You see, I'm also stopping myself. I'm doing North Korea to myself now. Frag the Gemara, how do you know? And this is similar to what Rav Moshe was saying. Dilma mishum dika chesron kis. How do you know? Maybe Tzar Ba'al Chaim is not the reason why really Prika is more than Te'ina, and Prika is self-explanatory and doesn't have to be written. Not because of Tzar Ba'al Chaim. Maybe I don't care about animals. Maybe it's just the Rabbanon, whatever. But it's not in the Oraisa level. Why is it so important Prika more than Te'ina? Because guy's losing his donkey. He's losing his Chevrolet. The Hachika Omar. And this is really what the Oraisa means. Umat Te'ina delays b'chesron kis chayev. Had the Torah only written Te'ina, I would say, wait. If I pick up all the parcels, that's something nice and friendly and menschlich, and the Torah demands it of me. Then I have to do, Prika, and he's not losing any money here. The animal's fine and all the parcels are fine. Prika, the isbachesron kis. Prika, the donkey's back is breaking, yeah, no veterinaries in the area. Prika, the isbachesron kis, lokol sheken. Then Avada, I would have known only because of chesron kis. In other words, and Tzar Ba'al Chaim is not the idea. I asked on you, Rav Moshe, the Brisa does mention Tzar Ba'al Chaim. The answer that the Rishonim give, I don't remember the Lashon Rishonim, maybe Tzar Ba'al Chaim is just added for good measure. It's like the spice. In other words, it's not the main thing. Really, the main issue here, leave Tzar Ba'al Chaim alone. It's just the Rabbanon, it's just some lower concept, yeah? The real deal why I really could have missed writing what? I wouldn't have had to have written Prika is because of what? Because of Chesron Kis. That's the name of the game. Frag the Gemara on that comes a big punch now. The Te'ina and the Chesron Kis? Are you sure, mister? Excuse me? Are you sure that the person standing there in the street and he has to load the oranges from all over? Ever happened to you? All the oranges fall over the, yeah? And v'chule, and all the parcels and the whole packages, you know, and the engine goes and smoke comes out of the engine, v'chule, yeah? And v'chule, are you sure that the fact that had he done it all by himself, he'd have to do it for 3 hours? If he does it with me and I'm an able guy, it would be 1 hour. Doesn't that translate into 3 things? Kesef, money, and geld. It does. Mila Yaskinan, aren't we talking over here? You know, maybe the guy has a job. That occurred to you? Shuke, maybe he's a guy who sells stuff in the market. Yeah, he has a store to open. Instead of losing one, he owns a store, let's say. Instead of waiting in the road before getting to his store 3 hours, because of my help, he'll only be losing 1 hour's work. That's money. It's indirect, but it's money. So there's also chesron kis, also yes, in where in the te'ina too. Inami also asu ganvi v'shakli kol ma'deika ba'adei. And also I could say that thieves may come. You think that when oranges fall and maybe valuable things, they all fall all over the place, then everybody is cute American people that would come and help? No, some people would steal, right? DLF, whatever. Some people would steal, take all over. The Moshe of the Chaim, right? The girl in the market, all the apples fell and everyone started stealing. Chafetz Chaim says, okay, I mean, you should also steal. Give back to yourself. In any event, that does translate into money. Yeah, in other words, so what you're saying that really chesro and kis only applies to prika because the animal's dying and not to teina, not necessarily true. It's true the Rishonim say teina is more indirect, it's not as bad, but that's what the Mishnah does mention it, but it's not such a clear-cut thing. So maybe we do need tzar ba'alei chaim. Must be what? The main factor that makes teina less choshev and prika more choshev is tzar ba'alei chaim. So yes, I am tending to say that tzar ba'alei chaim is doraisa. Maybe I'm not proving it, but I'm stronger now on that. Teida, we're not 100% yet sure because we can read either tzar ba'alei chaim or chesron kis. Here comes more of a punchy thing. Teid, what's Teida? I'll prove to you. Very good. The tzar ba'alei chaim doraisa. I'll prove you that tzar ba'alei chaim is doraisa. Itani seifa, or welcome to who? Rabbi Yossi Glili, which you indirectly mentioned before. Rabbi Yossi Glili Omer. Rabbi Yossi Glili says, Im hoya olav, who's olav? It was on top of it, on the donkey, yeser al masoi, more than the, how do you say, limited, more than the maximum weight permitted, right? More than 500 kilos in the elevator. The animal can carry 500 kilos. You put 510. If you did that, ein zalkukloi. I don't have to help the person. The Rishonim say my svara because the guy, it's his fault. Clumsy, foolish guy. He put too much. Let him suffer. Oh, why? But there's a pasuk for that. Hema tachas maso oi. Mishnah says basically it is not just saying the svara. There's a source. It says if you see an animal sagging under its burden, maso oi, the burden maso sheyachol amud boy. Only if the burden was apt, was matim, was in good relation to the animal, relative to the animal can hold, then you have to help him. Otherwise, no. That's what Basic clearly says. But Tanakama don't agree with that. What do Tanakama say? You have to help him nevertheless. Michlal must be the Tanakama Sovar Zokukloi. Basic clearly came with that innovative idea with this drasha. Must be Rabbanon say, even if the guy is a klutz and overloaded his animal, you still have to help him load it again. Maybe this time you load it less. I don't know. Otherwise, you have to load it. You do have to help him. You do have to relate to him. Why? Why don't the Nakama believe Rabbi Yossi Glili? At this point, I'm quoting a little bit of Tosfos. At this point, we think that the Nakama also believed that the pasuk maso oyi, its burden is a drasha. It's a real drasha from the pasuk, but they still think that you have to help him for an exterior reason. In other words, if you just read the pasuk maso oyi, you really wouldn't have to help him. Continues the Gemara. My time, la mishum letzar ba'lechaim deoraisa. In other words, Chachamim say, listen, Rabbi Yossi Glili. We have two parallel issues here throughout the entire sugya. Mitzad helping the guy, being a klutz or being smart, mitzad judging him, we agree with you. There's a drasha that says maso'oi, the guy is a klutz. The guy really did not do maso'oi, he did extra maso'oi, he added another 100 kilos. Really, no need to help him. But excuse me, Seitan Nakama, help the animal. The poor animal has to suffer because the owner is, excuse my language, idiot. In other words, the animal amaisa is what? Is suffering. So you see tzar b'alchaim doraisa. Bingo. You see that enechna refer basically there's no tzar b'alchaim doraisa. The Tanakama there is tzar b'alchaim doraisa. Here's your source. Here's your makor. So Tanakama still say, let's take out the human out of the story. There's the animal suffering, and you have to help it. And that's what they believe the Torah asks you to do. Not the Ganenet, not Lahavdil even the Rabbanon. It's a Torah commandment. Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. Gemara rejects the proof, the attempt to prove, and says, no, Dilma betachas masoi pligi. Maybe they argue about the pshat of the pasuk. They argue on the pshat, the drash of the pasuk. They argue on that. Rabbi Yossi saw about the shenan tachas masoi, masoi shiachol amud boy. Rabbi Yossi says masoi means only if the animal is loaded properly with the amount of weight, whatever, with the volume that it can take. Rabbanon Savi Lodo Shinatachas Masoi. And Rabbanon do not have the drasha of Tachas Masoi. They don't believe in that. They don't believe that Tachas Masoi means dafka the appropriate amount. Any masa, says Rashi. Before we continue, because it's 10:25, if you don't mind, it's Thursday, so maybe we have more time. Two things I want to say. We completely ignore the whole time. I don't know if you noticed what's slipping, through our fingers here. What about the Rabbanon? We had it sad to say that according to Rabbanon, or Rabbi Yosef Glili, Tzar B'chaim is not the Oraisa, therefore you don't help him. Last time I checked, I don't know if you know, but I'm an Orthodox Jew. Do you know that I'm ultra Orthodox? So I'm coming up with it now. I'm declaring it now. Hey, look, the kippah is black. You see, and therefore what? And therefore I keep the Rabbanan. I keep all the rabbinical commandments as well, and I believe so did the Amoraim. The Amoraim consistently seem to say, if it's not the Raisa, then you don't help him. What about the Rabbanon? A lot of research, a lot of svaris back and forth, and today I found the answer in the Tosfos Rosh. Finally, literally a minute before I came here, he says like this. If Tzar B'chaim is the Raisa is more the Rabbanon, then you should not cause animals to suffer, and you should not see your friend's animal suffering and just let it happen. Don't just be, silent bystander, when you see this suffering happening. If Tzar B'chaim the Rabbanon sometimes, not always, have lower standards, and therefore they say, my friend's animal who's suffering, and I'm a passive viewer, I don't have to stop, if it's the Rabbanon. Tzar B'chaim the Rabbanon means I have my own chicken, all the stores they have there in Shabbos, then I am not supposed to let my animal suffer. But if it's both passive and belonging to a friend, to another Jew, if it's only the Rabbanon, I don't have to do anything. Or that's with the Rabbanon. The halacha, as far as I know, it's the Raisa, but that's, I think, nearly, but I'm not sure. It's some Rishonim Paskin is the Raisa, definitely a very important thing. And although on Sunday we're going to see the other side, maybe it's not the Raisa. I also have an answer for Rashi. Let me, one more line. The answer for Rashi is as follows. Anybody can go, and those who want to go can go, those who want to stay. I asked the question on Rashi. According to Rashi, the source of Tzar B'chaim is here. And yet the Gemara is telling me, no, you can erase one posuk, the posuk of what? Of Prika, and I would have known of Tzar B'chaim anyways, so I would have known about Prika. That's the source. How would you know? Because you can end it told you. No, right? Other Rishonim are fine. I have an exterior source. I can import the source from 6 different sources. But according to Rashi, I think the answer is my own idea. I saw the Ritva. You know who loves me in this world? Only the Ritva. The Ritva says that Te'ina, in Yosef, I'm actually relating to your point, Te'ina also has a little bit of Tzar B'chaim involved. Why? As you said, the animal everything fell apart from the animal. If one person loads the animal, it's less professional and less comfortable for the behema than 2 people, right? And that's when 2 people are there from different sides of the animal. Like when you saddle a horse, when you sit in the horse, many times you want the guy to help you. 2 people with the animal are more helpful than 1. So although we say consistently no Tzar B'chaim, it means there's no high-level Tzar B'chaim. But already when the Torah told me about only Te'ina, I already got the Hirhurim that there is something called Tzar B'chaim. I don't know to what extent, but the idea is already in the Torah. Now it's much better. Comes the Torah tells me when there's a little bit of Tzar B'chaim, you have to help him, teeny bit. Kol sheken if the animal is sagging and is about to die, emergency room, kol sheken that you have to help. But that's nicer than to say that there was a zero idea of Tzar B'chaim, because then where did you come up with it? The answer is no. There was a mini Tzar B'chaim already written in the Torah by Te'ina. That would not be important enough. But I was Prika, kol sheken. Why is writing Prika? What for? Kol sheken there is Tzar B'chaim. It's redundant. So why did they write Prika to tell me to do it for free and not for money? So in the middle of, above the middle of Lamed Beis, Amud Beis, Lev, how do you know that it's Lev? Have a heart to the animals. Have some heart and help the animals. Good Shabbos, everybody.